Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today we need to talk about something that may sound like a broken record, but clearly people don't get it. And one of the things that I've learned as someone who puts out information is that generally the same person has to hear something said 3 times or 3 different ways, the average person, before it actually sticks. So when someone says, well, Jason, you say this all the time, yes, but it obviously hasn't stuck yet. So I'll have to keep saying it until it does. And I saw a regular poster actually discuss this with me. And I know he's a regular poster because I recognize the name. I've had enough back and forth with him that I know he watches the channel very regularly, comments. And there's a lot of people who do that. And I kind of keep up with them. And he was talking about, well, couldn't I just do more of this one exercise as a main exercise? If I have something that I care about more and want to specialize in more, whether it's squat, bench, deadlift, shouldn't I just do more of it on my max effort work? And the answer is no. Okay, the answer is no. And I'm going to say that that applies to whatever you're doing with a lift. You don't get better by doing more of the exercise you want to get better at once you are technically proficient. Okay, it's one thing if you're a novice. I get guys who I coach who I classify as novices if you can't perform a squat. Like if your upper back is so weak that when I put 225 on the bar, you cave like a taco, right? You cave like a taco because you have no upper back strength because you haven't done a single row in the past 2 years and you've done nothing but chin-ups. You're still a novice, right? Because you have no strength. You have no stability. You know, if you're just good at chin-ups and benching, you've got enormous weaknesses even in your upper body. But that aside, when you take the novices to the side and you have people who can correctly perform lifts, they're technically proficient. They can squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, right? They can do different variations of these movements proficiently and with fairly good form. Do you really think you're going to get much better at that lift by doing it? Now, people will say things like, well, you know, you're still going to get hypertrophy from it. Of course you will. But we don't get even hypertrophy from any big exercise, do we? It's the reason people get hurt. In other words, if you do nothing but squat for your lower body, will it build most of your lower body? Yeah, everything will hypertrophy, but it's not going to hypertrophy in a way that creates the most stability. It's also not going to allow you to have the highest training volumes because it's hard to recover from tons and tons of squatting. So I'm just using that as an example, though. So what is it we're trying to gain by doing more of the exercise? You're trying to get better at it. But you're already performing the exercise. And it's usually a case of what I see is someone who says, well, can I take a max effort day and can I just do nothing but deadlifts and no squats? If I care about my deadlifting more than my squat, why do I need to alternate squats and deadlifts back and forth? Why can't I just do deadlift variations? You guys see where I'm going with this? Because you're not going to get good at different movements. You're not going to get good at different angles and movement patterns and straining maximally. Okay, why do we max out? We max out to learn to strain. Maxing on lifts carries over to close lifts no matter what, right? Because you're learning to ramp to a 1-rep max. A box squat with chains has 100% carryover to a back squat. A sumo pull off of a 1-inch block still, done for a 1-rep max, still helps you learn to max on a conventional deadlift. We need different movement patterns. And these things are programmed the way they are because it works in most programs, particularly conjugate stuff. So the question I would ask someone is, if you have a movement that you feel is more important to you right now, people will say, well, shouldn't I do more of that and less of other stuff? Well, why? You should be practicing at your big movement patterns in a way that's programmed and understood to work. Why do you want to change that? because I want to get better at this one exercise. It matters more to me right now. It's a weak link, whatever. Well, why is it a weak link? Okay, if you're doing pressing, squatting, and pulling variations heavy all the time, you're practicing all of them. Do you think it's because you haven't done any practice? Is that why you're bad at it? If you're deadlifting to a max every 2 weeks, don't you think that you've learned how to deadlift already? And if not, you'll learn it within another few months anyways. I mean, because you're going to keep pulling to a max, you're going to eventually have to learn how to pull. You're going to have to learn how to perform a proficient pull from the floor at some point if you keep maxing out once every 14 days. What's the problem? You have a lift that isn't strong enough for your standards because the muscles are weak. So how do we fix a weak lift? Does it mean we just need to practice it more? Well, is your form bad? If your form's not bad, what good is practicing that lift more going to do for you, other than build muscle? Is the best way to build muscle for the deadlift to do the deadlift? No. You need to address your weak links. You need to step back and say, okay, I have a lift that's lagging behind my others. What do I need to do to fix it? What muscles are contributing to my lack of strength? Let's say it's your bench press. Well, it could be your entire upper body needs to get bigger. Right? Maybe your pecs are big enough. Maybe your delts are big enough. Maybe you don't have enough upper back or enough tricep. So is just doing more bench press going to fix that? I would say no. You need to do more tricep and more upper back work. Okay. You do more wide grip rowing. You do more high pulls. Maybe do some cleans. I don't know, you could do some tricep work. I mean, how's that for a novel fix? Well, my bench press needs to go up, but my triceps are weak. So I'm just going to replace some of my other lifting with more bench pressing to fix my tricep weakness. Well, that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. It means you need to do more tricep work. Right? If your upper back is creating a problem, you need to do more upper back work. If your squat looks like a taco, do you think doing more squatting is going to fix that? No, you need to, again, build your upper back more. If your deadlift is your weak link, and this is the case of the person who asked the question, they feel like the deadlift needs to come up a lot more than the squat. Okay, well, what's going on with it? What muscle's the problem? Because just doing more heavy deadlifts to a max is not the solution. You're already maxing on a deadlift on a schedule. You're just going to double the frequency at which you max out, and you think that's going to build the weak muscles? No, if you deadlift 500 and you're stuck at 500, you want to get to 550, you need to build all the muscles involved in the deadlift to a 550 strength level. So figure out what your weak link is. Okay? If you go to pull on a conventional deadlift and it stops an inch below the knee when you pull, and then your hamstrings hurt, you probably need to do more hamstring work. Right? You need to do more hamstring work. You don't need to do more deadlifts. You don't need to replace squatting with deadlifting. You need to work on your hamstrings. You need to do more good mornings, or more glute ham raises, or some hamstring curls. That's your solution. We don't change the programming on the main lifts because we have a weak muscle. And if you have a lift that's lagging behind, it's because you have a weak muscle causing it to lag, not because you're not already training it if you're on a good system, such as conjugate. You're already training the movement patterns. You need to build the musculature involved. That's your problem. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.